Greetings! This is Tentis Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor, here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome one and all. We're getting back to the Starfinder Species Guide, a guide to whatever alien species you can play in the Starfinder RPG. And this is probably as... I'm trying to be as most as possible. I'm using the Archives of Nethys as a ranging point for a lot of these. I'm keeping things simple to the information provided to you, to basically give you a guidebook to what these are, that you can have a little bit more visual, auditory, rather than just reading stuff. But honestly speaking, I would recommend the Archives of Nethys if you want to look into them a little bit more detail, especially on the mechanical stats of things. And I am going to shout out the sources where these come from, too. A little different than most of these guides that I do, where I shout out the books at the beginning of it. Well, it's come from a variety of places, so, you know. But Archives of Nethys is a great place to go for this information, too. But for now, I gotta say, let's just get started, because I got a lot to do, and, you know, we don't want to be here all day now, do we? And go with the first of the ones to talk about. And let's, boom! There they are. I hope I've got them framed correctly. The Samsaran is what we're going to start out with today. And they are another one that is from the Starfinder Alien Character Deck. This is a product that introduced a lot of, honestly speaking, Galarian/Pathfinder species that you could also play in Starfinder, so that's why some of these are going to be familiar. These are mysterious humanoids. They have an endless cycle of birth and death, to rebirth. When they die, they reincarnate to a younger member, to live a new life. Their memories of the past are very hazy, indistinct, and they seek a balance and enlightenment to continue their cycle of rebirth. The bonus is to int wisdom penalty constitution. I gotta pause this thing for a second, because it's an important call, I think. So we'll pause the video here on YouTube. I love phone calls that are useless, so I'll try to cut that out. I have to remember to cut out that call. Anyway, we'll, at 7, we'll go back. So I'll pause for a second to get a pause to restart. Okay, so, they also have a, life-bound ability, some magic, their connections to the past. So they do have some abilities that reflect upon that. But they're very simple, and again, it's a redo of something from the past. Let's move on, though, to something from the original Alien Archives, so a little bit more of a classic. The Sarcesian. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. No, I don't think so. So, according to information, they're descended from inhabitants of the 2 planets whose destruction long formed the Dysphoria asteroid belt within the Galarian system. They adapt to low gravity and thin air environments. They're about 10 to 15 feet tall, bulbous eyes, spindly, elongated limbs. They've adapted their physiology to survive in space by suspending a respirant and growing a pair of butterfly wings made of pure light. The wings act as solar sails. Catching radiation propel them between inhabited asteroids and space platforms within the asteroid belt area. Thanks to arcane engines, though, left behind by their ancestors, they've managed to maintain Kretch worlds, asteroids with enough magical atmosphere, gravity, and warmth to inhabit and live comfortably and raise offspring. Compared to some of the planets in the Galarian system, these Kretch worlds are very beautiful and idyllic. fields, forests, lakes, towns, hills. Populations could be in low thousands. Many of them are linked by the river between a body of water that actually flows through the asteroid belt. And it's prevented by floating off to space by a tube-shaped force field crafted by who knows who. Those Sarcesians who leave the asteroid belt are oftentimes hired by mercenaries for surveillance marksmanship. They are accustomed to operating vast distances from their targets. They hone their innate patience, wait for their marks for days from places, even out in vacuums of space. And they are paid well for their dedication. They are snipers of their species, are highly sought after commodity in the galaxy. Bonus dex charisma penalty to strength. They are large, and they're skilled. They got the void flyer ability, low rotation. So, and the Alien Archive was their book, as I mentioned. Now, going to Alien Archive 3. We're jumping around as we always do with these. We have the Sazaron. They are one of the co-governing species of Arakin, a moon of Levaria. They oversee and execute the day-to-day tasks, maintain their home, and balance out the mischief of their Drindindi cohabitants, which if you forget about the Drindindi, I talked about them many episodes ago. So go check that out from one of the earlier guides to learn about them again. They're large creatures, lower body like that of an iguanodon, 2 thick hind legs, 2 leaner front legs. They're about 15 feet long, 900 pounds. Long tails are tipped with a large knob of bone that they can wield defensively. From the saurian shoulders, it transitions into basically the torso of a large humanoid. Their thick skin gives them electric resistance. And this helps when their moon plunges into the electrical charged atmosphere of Levaria. And also insulates them for Janini's electric greens. So the resistance to electric both helps with the moon, and that they've got this other species that lives with them that are electrical. They're scholarly creatures. They move at a more imaginable pace than those other ones from Arakin. They avoid conflict, study further their knowledge. They instinctively are skeptical of things. And they do also have the ability to magically compel others to speak the truth, meaning that truth is very important to them. The ancient capital of their people, Telataranas, has numerous magical universities, magical academies, and a large number of sages, scholars, and scientists of their people. There's 2 main fields of study: atmospheric submergence and analysis. Okay, those who study atmospheric submergence analyze phenomena related to Arakin's annual journey through the atmosphere of Levaria, including the moon's ecosystems, how they store and ration electrically gained by what's going on with that. And these scholars work along with their electrically attuned Drindi fellows, Drindidi, Diriandi. The other most popular topic focuses on mind searing halogens, which the Arakan is tasked with containing on the nearby moon of Hollis by a magical barrier. Halogens being a creature that is not a thing you could play. Look it up in the alien species that you would combat section of Archives Nexus. That they are a Challenge 17 aberration. And yes, I won't get into them because they're their own thing to talk about. Maybe on another day, if I talk about various things you can fight. Many of the Saracens who are passionate about the subject have worked with Pack Worlds to oversee of the mysterious species, work closely with observers to make sure their dangerous psychic energy does not escape the planet Hallis, or the moon Hallis. They still are desperate to learn more about the creatures there and their abilities. They still uphold the strict rules that prohibit attempts to sneak into the planet. But if there's an opportunity to confiscate or analyze artifacts or data from lawbreakers, that's great. So it's sort of like, we really want to get in there, but we're very uptight about not doing it. But oh, you went in there and got some stuff. Well, we're just going to don't worry, you can enjoy jail. Bonus to intelligence, wisdom, and dexterity. They are a large monstrous humanoid. They can do the impale truth, the insulate skin, limit technology, and natural weapons and stuff. And that's Alien Archive 3 again, if you want to check out stuff on them. Moving on to another, this one who originated from one of these Starfinder adventures in Adventure Path. This was number 8, Escape from the Prison Moon, is the Screedreep. That was the Against the Aeon Throne Book 2. We find the Screedreep. So they're kind of hunched posture, drooping ear, short snout. It almost looks like their posture is like they're just moving around like someone's about to punch them in the face and they're ready to take the blow. And that ability to take blow defines them pretty well because they have a history with the Aslanti Star Empire. They're native to the Aristia system. They were one of the first humanoids to be taught imperial lessons of brutality and subjugations by the Star Empire. And most of the worst of Aslanti's aggression were suffered upon them for decades before they finally surrendered to Imperial forces. When they capitulated, they lost Australium, their homeworld, to the Aslanti, and suffered acclimation to Imperial ways of life. Since then, they've been a pretty dedicated subject. The utter defeat has yielded fawning, sycophanticness, subservient behavior, eager to fulfill Aslanti wishes, and the centuries of devotion have earned some of them high administrative positions. They're particularly adept at singling out plots within and against imperial bureaucracy, identifying them before they can ferment too long come to fruition. The wealth and privilege, though, that elevates Screedreep only so far, though, within the culture. Aslanti cultural structure constantly reminds all non-humans that they're second-class citizens. And being the second Star Empire's favored non-human species does also earn them distrust from the other sentient non-humans under the Empire's thumb. So, yeah. And having lived with the Aslanti for so long, they're acclimated to Imperial technology and magic. They prefer the particularity of technology to magical enigmas, though. Practicality, something that's repeatable, is very important to Screedreeps. They value very universal systems. They like order. This ethos gives them something in common with Barracum's and Barracum's technology technicians who make the other Imperial worlds get along so well with Screedreep managers. So it's sort of like they work with some of the better sort of vile species under the Aslanti Star Empire. You know, it's you're not a slave, you're a second-class citizen. And they work well with the other second-class citizens that make the Empire work very well. Their primary trained invocations where a single administrator can oversee a network of personnel, and Screedreeps thrive in these roles. If a Screedreep were less loyal or Barracum's more aggressive, when among other alien species, the relationship would be detrimental to the Empire. Occasionally, one that has failure to perform or some poor luck can have it lose public position, either voluntarily or otherwise, and can take up independent work. Displaced Screedreeps drift into criminal enterprises, running efficient racketeering operations, smuggling rings, thieving operations, eschewing more violent criminal endeavors. Screedreep facilitators, as they're known by, work throughout the Empire. They are kind of cute. Again, they're described as having this, acting as if they're about to be punched kind of posture and way of doing things. They're ready to take a hit. Anyway, the facilitators that are the fallen criminal element of the Screedreep work in the Empire, using their wiles to avoid notice, including the observations of their fellow Screedreep still within Imperial administrations. And more than one criminal enterprise on Borton 2 has a Screedreep among its leadership, if not its head. They're about 3 feet tall, about 60 pounds. They're adult at 15 and live up to 150 years. So, bonus to wisdom, charisma, penalty to strength. They're cultured, got some low-light vision, quick senses, a tricky mind. But that's a Screedreep, introduced in an adventure path, and the first of the subservient non-human races to the Aslanti Star Empire. They're still very Aslanti now, and the favorite of the second-class citizens. Is Aslanti Star Empire. Isn't a great place to be. Not gonna lie about that one. This is indeed a jellyfish with a laser rifle. They resemble sea jellies. These are Scyphozoan. They're sophisticated herders and technologists. Most Scyphozoan history centers on nomadic societies that grew increasingly belligerent and expansionist. But within the past century, they achieved planet-wide peace and developed unique biotechnology. They've created living machines, organic spaceships to carry them across the galaxy as explorers and scientists. So they have evolved from sea jellies and have a lot of a type of jellyfish, and they retain a lot of traits of a jellyfish. They are about 7 foot tall and about 150 pounds, and they've got 3 sections: the bell, the inner mantle, and the tentacles. The bell is the dome-like exterior, layers of gelatinous flesh that functions as complex muscle and protective shell. In water, they can relax and contract their bells to create thrust. Out of water, it retains moisture, and it's key for its respiration. They retract their gills into their bodies, relying on gases to diffuse directly through the flesh, where the gills undulate to circulate fluids. It's collagen-rich. It's one of the toughest parts of their body, shielding the softer organs by turning aside cuts and disparate impacts. The bell is also the key to their communications and some of their stealth. They've got bioluminescent patches spread throughout a lot of the middle tissue, glowing of each blending into the surrounding flesh to give them a kind of warm opacity. They vary in their color and intensity in limited degrees. They're too faint to illuminate an area, but they convey emotions and simple messages, kind of like facial expressions in humanoids. And by dampening the lights, their bodies become nearly translucent, helping them to hide. And the bioluminescence can create counter shading that helps them blend into brighter environments and break up their outlines. To communicate vocally, they do not speak through their mouths, but by rather gently squeezing their bells to create pressure, and doing so creates a kind of pleasant hum they can modulate into words using the vocal frills in the underside of their bellies, giving their speech very musical quality. When they're out of the water, though, the very gas levels in their bodies can add a crackling sound when speaking, kind of like popping bubbles of a freshly opened carbonated beverage. So like a little fizzing almost, if you will. The inner mantle of the bell is where a lot of the sensitive organs are. The digestive system is the most extensive, forming a loop that begins and ends at their circular mouth. Pores along the mantle allow them to absorb fluids underwater and retain moisture in drier environments. They can survive indefinitely above ground out of the water, but it's increasingly discomforting for them. Their tentacles take numerous forms based on purpose. There's locomotive, sensory, and gripping tentacles, each with an anchor on the underside of the bell. Most have 4 locomotive limbs, each about 5 feet long. and in several toe-like projections for balance and walking. They aren't very flexible, and instead of having some cartilagic disconnected bones for strength. On land, the quadrupedal movement has led to a balanced gait, and many appear as if they're gently floating off the ground. Underwater, these appendages typically flatten and act as rudders. The two sensory tentacles are arranged evenly around the body, or two sets of them. Skirt tentacles dangle near the locomotive limbs, acting like antennae for detecting nearby vibrations in air and water. Crown tentacles are shorter and curl up in the bell, further augmenting vibration sensitivity, while serving in various smell, taste, and chromoreceptive roles. So they don't really have eyes the same way. That's another thing to think about. The tentacles all augment the sense of the bell, which absorbs and processes incoming sound like a giant ear. Its eyes are all aligned along one side of the bell, so they have eyes, providing complex vision exchange for a 360-degree sight. Nodes of nervous tissue extend throughout the sensory tentacles, creating a network of secondary brains that all connect to the central brain and the inner mantle. And the gripping tentacles allow them to manipulate devices with equivalent dexterity to human hands. They've adapted from ancestral stinging tentacles, and each gripping appendage contains a host of aesthetic nemesis stinging cells that they can deactivate at will. Reproduction is aquatic, males and females releasing sex cells into the water, letting fertilized eggs settle in shallow sea floors. The hatchling anchor themselves in debris and develop into anemone-like polyps that grow and feed before metamorphosing into small versions of the adult. They are natives to Primoria, the second of 6 planets in the star system in the Vast. We won't go into details about their planet too much. That's not what we're here for. Oh, did I mention? Yeah, I mentioned they're from Interstellar Species book. I should mention. I did not. I think I missed that one. Whoops. So other planets in their system are airless or toxic atmosphere, seismic instability, deterring habitation. And from a vertebrate's perspective, Primoria is a very primeval world because its native life evolved from either backbones or lignin-dense plant-like trees. It's a planet dominated by invertebrates, ferns, and fungi. So it's a very interesting planet to visit. Arthropods are the most diverse of the groups on the planet. And, you know, a lot of plants, as I said, plants are ferns, fungi, and most of the species inhabit the supercontinent Eukarya, which is about 3/4 of the planet's landmass. And there's 3 other continents that are a little smaller than it. Anyway, it has 2 moons too. So early Scyphozoans were hunters and pastoralists who followed prey and herded domestic plankton swarms in seasonal cycles. The technology developed, and the tribes developed professional identities. As communities specialized in tanning, metallurgy, crustacean ware vessels, which in turn helped develop continent-spanning networks of trade that reinforced cultural identities. They increasingly explored inland, forcing encounters with Myceler of Abath. Myceler interpreted the Scythozoans as invasions, spurning generations of warfare that united the Scythozoans as species thanks to their shared enemy. The war transformed both of their societies. The Scythozoans increasingly cooperated against their enemies. They simultaneously questioned their expansionist policies that started the conflict in the first place. After centuries, both forces sought peace. And a century ago, a massive reclamation effort drew the deadly feud to an end, becoming a rich exchange of scientific knowledge that spurred a biotech revolution. So today, most Scythozoans are tech-savvy and non-violent, and desire little to spark new conflict with one of their, like the one their planet had concluded pretty recently overall. They do have a fascination with the ancient past, and their nomadic roots, and games that once used to teach hunting and warfare skills have become national sports, teams competing with planet-wide leagues. And despite being pacifistic, dueling has become an edgy practice involving loose clashings, traditional combat combinations of tentacles, and spears in martial arts studios. Deaths are infrequent, but acid burn scars are a status of symbol in that kind of subculture. And those sparks are a revival of old traditions. So, I think that's enough for the, just to give you an idea of the Scyphozoans. They're in the Interstellar Species books. There's a lot of information, and I'd recommend checking out that book to go dive deeper into them. Or you can kind of finish up reading about both their homeworld a little bit more, their society and technology and the archives and methods, which probably is most of that information. They always tend to be. A few extra details. Let's continue onward, though, as we've got these interesting fellows here from Ports of Call, the Selamid. Ports of Call being one of the books that you can check out. But they are sentient oozes originating from a gravitational dynamic planet of Sylph, where they build cities called megadoplexes on the back of immense wandering oozes. So that's an interesting thing. Oh, I didn't give information on the noting for the past one. Bonuses to con, penalty to charisma, asset penalty, amphibious, senses, seaborne, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they build cities on the back of bigger oozes, and they're tinier oozes. So they are a medium ooze. I'll get the stats now because I did it first. Bonus dex and con, charisma. They've got ooze biology, so they aren't immune to critical hits. They aren't mindless. They can gain skills normally. They count as both humanoids and oozes for things that can target and affect them. So it's very important to know. Because they are oozes, but they don't give them normal ooze immunities. They do have blind sight and gravity adaptation. They're malleable, sightless. So their body consists of flexible protoplasm with a semi-rigid membrane, allowing them to take a variety of shapes. These contortions only minimally impact the body functions thanks to their host of redundant organelles distributed throughout their mass, and beyond the nucleus large enough to see. At the end of their 40-year lifespan, they split into two descendants known as pairlings. Each retain a blend of the parents' memories and personality, creating imperfect records of past life experience. So they kind of like split, and their mind and memories kind of split. So these pairlings like share the connections with their adult version of them, but they're like new building. They basically have like a copy of part of the memory of their ancestor, and they can kind of build something new from that. But they're also part of that personality, meaning they could change and evolve into something else. So they usually live in small communities of a dozen inhabitants. Families teach recent split offspring, who learn to establish their own identities distinct from their forebearers. Pairling dynamics are usually emotionally charged, with two becoming extremely close friends or hated enemies, and search for an identity that stems as much from sincere curiosity as it is from desire to be different from one's sibling. Historically, Selamid culture has no concept of gender, though some have begun to explore the ideas they meet travelers from other worlds. Romantic attachments are rare, and when they occur, they're often long-lasting and commanded with a life fusion ceremony to celebrate multiple beings symbolically as one. They rarely wear clothing. They do don armor as needed, easily molding into armor of sundry shapes. They enjoy accessories like jewelry, as they suspend within their protoplasm in a protective vacuole. Their habit of carrying items in full view of everyone is consistent with the openness and honesty that defines their culture. There's a craving for novelty, self-discovery that can motivate some young Semelids to pursue an adventuring lifestyle and head out to the world. Basically, mirroring the physiological flexibility, they thrive in a wide range of team niches. In the face of failure, they literally and emotionally bounce back, provided positive encouragement from their companions. So, That's the Selamid. They're very interesting. Let's move on, of course, to... did I mention what book this Selamid came from? I mentioned this. That was Ports of Call. I did mention. So this is from another of the Adventure Path books. This is from Starfinder Book 5, The 13th Gate, which is the 5th in the Dead Suns Adventure Path series. Introduced the Seprevoi. They evolve from simian creatures in their homeworld, mentioned in that book. They're covered in fine, short hair ranging in color from dark brown to pale blonde, with the exception of a black skin of their faces and hands. They have 6 elongated fingers on each hand, each featuring an additional joint compared to a human's hand. And they have 4 feet with 3 unjointed toes in each. Dex, charisma, and intelligence. They're fast, multi-legged, mortal adaptation, analog attunement, and that's all we got of the Seprevoi. But I would say, if you want to look into one, look into the Book 5 of the Dead Suns Adventure Path to gain maybe a little bit more information about the planet and stuff like that, to grant you a little bit more about that possibility of playing. Moving right along, because we still have a bunch more to do today, we have the Shakalta from Alien Archives 3. So, they are highly intuitive psychic abilities that inhabit Archaea 4. It's a planet in the vast, has very short day-night cycles. They are born as a soul, appearing as a glowing molt of energy with vague face and fully developed mind. They inherit a great deal of knowledge and spend the first few years receiving intense telepathic education from their parents. They develop their identity and personality during this time, and after a few years, they are considered to be an adult. To enter adulthood, though, 2 Shakalta souls must bond together. The young ones travel across Archaea 4, seeking a partner to bond with. Psychic compatibility, spiritual connections are what matters most in potential soul partners, and both souls must consent to the bonding for it to work. The deep link between bonded Shakalta souls is one that surpasses trust and love. When they create a bond, they interweave, creating a body of coherent energy to share, living the rest of their lives in this intimate proximity. So the body has one soul controlling outward activities at a given time. The inactive soul recedes and rests, conscious only of its mate. Cosmetic changes in the body reflect the active soul's sense in itself. The visual variations allow non-psychic creatures to tell which soul is different from the other, which is control at the time. Their culture is deeply spiritual. They arrive in the galaxy as energy makes it easy for them to value knowledge, mysticism, and immaterial concepts over objects and wealth. They revere Urusei, the light of wisdom, and Sarai, the light of life. The 2 deities are often represented together in Shakalta shrines as separate luminosities unified in an internal balance. They spend their long lives seeking experiences, attempting to bring light and positivity to existence. Many remain on Archaea the 4th, gathering in family-like groups and living lives in quiet devotion to their deities, philosophy, or one another. Some have a calling to leave their homeworld for greater purposes. Member of the Shakalta Star Guardians exemplify this urge. Their loose coalition dedicated traveling the galaxy, defending it from evil. Their belief in balance of dualities extends even to life and death. When they decide to reproduce, each bonded soul contributed to vitality to create a kernel of psychic energy. They carry this embryo inside their body for 18 months. A Juno called a neophyte that emerges without effort, immediately beginning its education. Conversely, some Shakaltas agreed to peacefully end their lives before natural death, seeing their passing on as an avenue of exploration. They believe their souls reincarnated and that bonded souls can find their partners in the next life, which may or may not be Shakaltas. They're about 6.5 feet tall, about 100 pounds, and live well over 500 years naturally. Most wisdom, charisma, pound to intelligence. They've got their aura light, their bonded souls. They must multi-class into 2 classes, 1 for each soul. And they must alternate between the 2 classes whenever they gain a level. And can have no more than 1 level of difference between the 2 classes. So they do have special dual-class rules. Energy body, telepathy, psychic shunts, a lot of other abilities there. So they're very interesting and creative species to look into, possibly playing. Anyway, we will continue to move on. We still have some more to chat about. We've gone through a chunk of these. And we can talk about the Shatori from Alien Archive 3. Also Alien Archive 3? Just as a question in the brain. They are! Both of these were in Alien Archive 3. So before the gap, they had a utopian society, civilization that spanned several worlds in the Disage system of the Vast, building upon a wellspring of magic on their homeworld, Perdane. Their source of power dwindled. They searched for more planets with eldritch energy. Their overreach led them to Abaddon. And when they retreated from that plane, an army of daemons followed them back to their system. The daemons overwhelmed their defenses of Perdane, destroying the civilization environment there. As the force of Abaddon spread, the Shatoris withdrew to Purdue, another world in their system to plan. They knew their doom was a matter of time and enacted a complex ritual to open a demi-plate to allow some of them to enter stasis for centuries. The spell was too rushed, and the survivors ended up in a pocket dimension connected to Pharasma's Boneyard, where they slept for ages, and as they did, the Boneyard's energies altered them. When the spell resisted, the remaining Shatoris were changed. They had much of their heightened grace, but their flesh had become semi-transparent and bones limned with light. This combination makes their eyes glow and their bones visible through translucent flesh. They are living creatures, but centuries of exposures to energies of the Boneyards have extended their natural life indefinitely and rendered them sterile. They returned to Purdue of shattered people. They witnessed their species near extinction, their civilizations ruined, all their accomplishments razed to ruins, and their future one of slow attrition. Despair gripped him in early days of the return. The wisest of them could see their people's despondency might accomplish, and that the daemons could not. 9 of these, called the Shibani, drafted a document called the Shiban, laying out behavior and enshrining the culture of impartiality and tranquility, placing objectives to the subject. The Shiban endorses detachment from the material world, rejects the worship of gods. It recommends psychological egotism, self-interest, includes working towards the benefit of others over self-interest, working towards the benefit of others, seeing common good as an extension of personal welfare. And based on the Shaban, the Shatoris believe that each person finds a purpose and uses their gifts to fulfill the reason for existing, profiting themselves and others. According to Shaban, inaction is the greatest sin, wasted life dishonors the billion of Shatoris who were denied a chance to live at all. They see each death among them as a potential catastrophic loss. Therefore, they seek to ensure their personal knowledge and culture is remembered even if they fail to survive, keeping detailed records. They also distribute their knowledge with little restraint, including to other sentient species. When a signal provided drift travel to the Shatoris, they'd already expanded to Prevail, another world relatively untouched by daemons in their system. Despite exploring drift travel in theory, they remained in Disage. When the Atlanti arrived in the Disage system, the Shatoris headed off conflict by offering their services as analysts, solars, and magic users. The Disage system became a vassal of the Atlanti Star Emperor with no struggle. Shatoris served the Atlanti with quiet obedience, fearing their species' survival. Some of the bravest ones act subtly against the Empire. As highly skilled servants, they conduct research, fill bureaucratic roles, essential to the Empire's stability and expansion. Many of these allow them to influence the course of the Empire's policy in the future, and the Stoic Immortals hope their long-term impact brings changes to the Empire for the better. The combination of this philosophy, dread of extinction, desire for members makes them averse to risk. Many are paying imperial space, hunting for ways to alter their fate. A few are bold enough to take greater risks and travel to the galaxy for answers or new possibilities. Most in wisdom pound with the con. They've got the Boneyard, conditioning, stillness, psychometry, and some magic. Interesting one. I'll take the small. It hits better for this one. The Shimreen Here's another longer one. It's from the Interstellar Species book. I like to say that because it's true. The Interstellar Species book provides a lot of good information on these, so I'll do my best to keep it a little short here. So they're born on a world racked by eternal storms. They are autochthonous humanoids composed of glimmering crystal who rose to prominence through tenacity and ingenuity using magic technology to adapt to their volatile environment. Now they live, these ingenious innovators live in idyllic city-states, encased in crystal domes that shield them and powers the city with limited energy from the storm. So basically these domes not only protect them from the storm, it absorbs the energy from the eternal storm to power the city. So, a very interesting thing. And like the technology that keeps them safe, they aren't born, they're made. Forged from sacred volcanoes of lava and crystals, dominated by family, or donated by family. Boast decks into wisdom, they have an amplify ability, electric resistance, radiant, and shift limbs. Let's talk about physical description, life cycles, a little about their homeworld. And I blew my nose. Take that. They are humanoid in shape, but they are composed of luminous crystal rather than flesh and blood. Tall, angular bodies are harder to touch, and flexible clusters of crystal fragments form their joints. Due to this, they are dense, and so a 7-foot-tall Shimreen is about 600 pounds. They come in countless colors, and consider body clarity and smooth surfaces to be signs of good health and beauty. Their bodies emit a persistent glow that varies in tension, basically varies with their moods. Most learn to control their luminescence at a young age and can dim or brighten at will. Their language incorporates optional light flourishes to convey emphasis, particularly in things in poetic flair or regional accents. You'll see that a lot more. And regardless of their control, only death can extinguish their light. So they can dim their light, but their light only goes out when they're dead. They are resistant to electricity and reflect light because they're crystalline. Even when these energies reach very dangerous levels, they can absorb a portion of this energy, amplify it, and release that energy with a touch. They are sensitive to vibrations, not just hearing, but also feeling sound as thumbing in their chests. Each one's body resonates with a specific frequency, and these sounds that match their resonance can cause total harmony that they will find pleasant. They have considerable control over bodies, displayed in 3 ways. First, they can reshape their arms, transforming into crystal lances and tools. They can perfectly alter their crystalline memory reservoirs that perform most brain functions, allowing them to slowly edit out bad habits or clear traumatic memories in a process that takes considerable focus or outside assistance. So they can delete memories or bad habits from them, but it is very hard to do. So they can kind of like alter their crystalline brain structure, which is kind of weird. But with the help from outside, they can be like, I don't want this traumatic memory anymore. Can you help me delete it from my mind? Cool, it never happened. Or, I don't like this bad habit. Mm-hmm. They can also control how their crystals grow along their heads, shoulders, and necks, tailoring their body's preferred styles at whims, or maybe a fashion, basically that. So they shape their head crystals to form crowns, or let crystals grow out of their faces in wide clusters called manes. So they aren't born, as I said. They're created by families from crystal shards, fleetly shorn from crest, crowns, manes, and spurs, and are mixed with lava in one of 7 sacred volcanoes in special creation chambers. The shards melt, either consumed by lava or attracting soul. In the latter, a newborn Shimreen about half the size of an adult coalesces from the molten minerals, rising in the lava in a shell of heat-resistance gel that sloughs away moments later. It's possible for any number of living Shimreens to contribute to a child's creation, from a single individual to an entire community. In addition to inheriting some qualities of the parents who donate shards, the young Shimreen's composition is shaped by the volcano of their birth. The most prodigious of the 7 mountains is Pharasma Forge, a small volcanic hotspot in Temple Complex whose mountain's face is carved with ray-like canals and direct rivulets of lava in the creation chambers. It's near the city of Shimreen and stands the most infamous volcano, Shadowbolt Peak, near the Zanian. As the gap ended, this volcano began spewing noxious purple lava that attracted mutant beasts and undead Shimreens. It is still possible to birth new Shimreens here, but the process is so dangerous it's rarely attempted. And over 2 or 3 centuries of life, their light dims, their body becomes clouded, their exterior softens, they lose control over the crystal groups, the eldest shed crystal fragments, eventually crumbling peacefully at a moment of death. The dead are carried in a solemn procession to the nearest sacred volcano and cast into the magma, where their spirits contribute to making future lives. Many believe this is a part of the life cycle, and if enough aren't returned to the sacred volcanoes, the volcanoes will lose their ability to produce more of them completely. And perhaps the only reason Shimreens can only create are only created on Shimrasa. Archaeological evidence of their past. They may have offered live sacrifice to volcanoes for this reason. Some believe it could be fabrication. So Shimrasa is their homeworld, planet deep in the vast, racked by powerful never-ending storms. It's the only planet in its solar system. It's orbited by 7 small moons, occasionally visible through their storms. Each moon boosts a single pre-gap ruin believed by Shimreen scholars to either be shrines dedicated to forgotten divinities or memorials to ingenious innovators whose inventions changed the course of Shimreen technology. It does mention that they were capable of spaceflight in the past. It's unclear what halted their starflight endeavors. But they and their fellow Shimrasians, the other creatures on the planet, were grounded at the time of the gap ended. So that's just a little bit of information there. I won't get into Shimrasa too much about it. Thing is, they're a logical order of people, and society is rigid and highly stratified. Citizens are divided into 2 classes: warriors and workers. Warriors consisting of soldiers, spectrum guards, and ordered, as well as athletes, hunters, and explorers of all kinds. Workers are diversified: artists, engineers, miners, scientists, doctors, educators, musicians, politicians. Most worship Pharasma, with the deity of cycles, whose blessings necessity to create offspring. Resources are plentiful and easily acquired, thus most of them have plenty of time to devote to education, trade, careers, hobbies. Things like fashion, music, sports are among the most popular of these pastimes, and engineering and the physical science are popular trades. Cosmeticians etch or paint patterns on their exteriors. DJs direct complex tonal symphonies designed to resonate with as many Shimreens as possible. Athletes compete in all manner of organized sports and daredevil antics. From lance duels, free climb lightning rods, to electrifying bays of Blazer Ball and Eldorant. Engineers are known for their solid, reliable constructions, basically because of their weight, and the phrase "built for a Shimreen" has become synonymous with nigh indestructibility throughout the galaxy. So, hey, there you go. And I can talk about their government and origins and stuff a little bit, but we'll leave that off for today, as we can talk about. We do want to talk about more aliens out here in this species guide. We can keep moving on. The big one would have been good here. Switch to the small one. Division is still big. Anyway. So, from Alien Archive 1, the Shobhad. Collectively called the Shobhad Nen, their 4-armed giants of Akaton live as nomads, as much have for millennia. They're self-sufficient, able to construct their own weapons, and they've avoided larger cities and smaller races of the planet except to engage in trade. As such, when Akaton had economic collapse, they were largely spared from the turmoil. In the afterhalf, Shobhads began to offer their services guides, hunters, and mercenaries, often in trade for more advanced armor and weapons. Today, they are highly sought after for martial expertise, unparalleled knowledge of Akaton's wilderness, and unbreakable code of honor. These warriors may operate independently, but in their traditional clans, or in modern mercenary companies that blend ancestral elements with the needs of modern military freelancers. While more Shobhads can be spotted in Akaton's new metropolises today, the majority tend to live in the harsh hills and canyons of Akaton. They tend to wear their armor most of the time, with traditional rope or leather harnesses. Life among them is hard, with young ones trained from pre-adolescence to fight. By the age of 20, They're considered a full adult, capable of defending both their clan and their honor against even the most experienced warriors. Typically, they stand about 12 feet tall, weighing about 500 pounds. Most do not die in battle, live between 90 to 120 years. Most clans hunt, gather, and raid neighboring clans, corporate convoys for supplies. They believe that overt aggression isn't a flaw, but rather a fact of life, and everyone should be strong enough to protect themselves. However, honor is paramount, and breaking one's word or clan wall is a face of death. The laws of city folk, on the other hand, mean little less unless they've been agreed to. So, effectively, one visiting the city is not going to obey the laws unless they've agreed to obey the laws of that city. They rarely establish permanent settlements. A single clan may wander thousands of miles of open desert, their territory overlapping with that of another clan or species with very few disputes. While most remain on Akaton, their expertise in warfare means there's always steady mercenary work for them, and one of them is willing to travel. And few clans have traded caravans for starships. Such adventurers can be found working for corporations or groups such as the Starfinder Society as hired muscle. Shobhads have found themselves overtaken by near inescapable wanderlust, even after just a single off-planet jog, and rarely set foot on Akaton again. They are nomads by basically their society and everything, and having the space ahead of them is the ultimate nomadic will, you could say. Big bonus to strength, penalty intelligence, dark vision, forearm, velocity, swift. Continuing with someone else from Alien Archive, we of course have the cute little dude here. Little. He is small. The Skittermander from Alien Archives. Also, they are a near ubiquitous inhabitant of planet Vesk 3. They lead a simple, mostly grand lifestyle before the Veskian annex their planet. They have a unique outlook, individualistic without being anarchistic, and somewhat usable, perhaps unwilling, grasp of concepts of permanent governance. They understand and enjoy teamwork and are naturally follow a qualified leader to undertake large projects, such as building of domiciles, but once the task has been completed, the leader doesn't contribute to hold sway over the others. Coupled with their life cycle, they're very difficult to rule, but it's not really exactly the case. It seems they're very difficult. When Vesk warships appeared, the Scattermanders from Vestry were more than happy to get out of the invaders' way, not out of fear, but more because of their innate desire to help. They instinctively recognized the Veskarium's superior strength and felt they could best aid the Empire by simply not being in the same location as the soldiers. They believed the Vesk would have their goals and move on. They didn't understand the Vesk were trying to take over their world. Since the Vesk Code of Honor forbade them from shooting the cheerful acquiescent Skittermanders in the back, the invaders were confused and infuriated by the situation. Eventually, in a meeting that the Empire notes as the official date that Vesk 3 was conquered, the Vesk generally and plainly told the group of Skittermanders that Veskium ruled their planet. The Skittermanders nodded and got back to their lives. They're like, "We've conquered your planet." Oh, okay. Since then, they've ruled it and really haven't controlled it. Skittermander accept jobs given to them by Vesk, but never really acknowledge the Vesk as being in charge. Some outside the Veskian believe Skittermanders are deliberately obtuse, reaping all the technological and social benefits of the Empire while partially maintaining their freedom as a society, but no Skittermander would confirm the theory. Today they're found throughout the Veskian, serving in clerical positions that allow them to aid as many people as possible. They fully embrace technology, enjoy the sights the galaxy has to offer, traveling to the pack worlds and beyond. Those who employ them learn to give them missions and have open-ended parameters. When they feel they've completed their task, they won't necessarily report back to Superior for further instructions if she finds someone else who needs help first. Outsiders find them cheerfully manic, noting a goblin-like flair for the ridiculous, but none of the malice that a lot of times goblins will have. They are mammals, but begin their life akin to a larval stage. The Skittermander whelp looks like a miniature version of the adult, with more prominent ears and a tiny secondary mouth on its abdomen. Once born, the whelps tend to fend for themselves. They're omnivorous, capable of digesting fruits, leaves, raw meat, seeds. The whelp's secondary mouth allows it to attach itself to larger prey and feed at leisure. The numbing mucus secreted by the mouth less intelligent animals rarely even notice the whelp's samplings because of the numbing mucus. So basically numbs them, kind of like gets on top of you and starts just feeding on you as a whelp if you don't even notice it. So swarm of Skittermander whelps have been known to bring down truding bovine monoecs in a matter of minutes. I guess it's a big creature from there. After 6 years, the whelps mature into adults, begin to walk upright, lose their secondary mouths, and they maintain their taste for anything remotely edible. They live in tropical climates, have short, soft fur, while those that live in the tropical have short, soft fur. The Arctic ones have tough, shaggy hair. Their coloration varies even more. Tones of blue, green, violet, most common, and obviously with no obvious coloration to its surroundings. They're about 3 feet tall, 35 pounds. Boast Dex, Charisma, Penalty 2. Int, they're a grappler, kind of hyper, 6-arm. They've got some altered ability adjustments and racial traits. If you want to check out a Skittermander. I love those guys. Those are very silly. I'm not going to lie. That may be my favorite for today so far. I mean, this one looks really cool. I'm not going to lie about that one. This is from Alien Archives 3, the Spathinae, which is an insectile species occupying several worlds in the vast. Individually, these creatures have a significant physical variety, resembling wasps, mantises, and moths, among others. Each inch-long Spathinae is much like an insect it resembles, but thousands organize themselves in a biological neural network. The result is a colony that operates like a single sapient creature. Such colony is like a swarm and refers themselves in plural, but their conscious is specific, with one personality instead of memories. The colony can alter shape. So it's basically a hive mind of like insect creatures. Most take human form, speaking in a buzzing, layered voice with a featureless head. Spathinae colonies prefer armor adjusted, so each constituent can wear one component, allowing the colony to behave like a swarm. Most colonies realize creatures made up of single continuous mass have difficulty thinking of a distributed sapience between a group with a common purpose, rather than a single creature acting like a swarm. Most of them use the colony's name without pointing out that each constitution has its own name. So basically, they are a swarm of beings, and they have a name for their colony. And they use that when talking to, like, other humanoids and stuff, though each own little insect in the swarm technically has its own name, and when they're working together, they have this united brain together that is one personality of the colony, though they can be individuals, too, in a weird way. Damage can distribute to a colony's network, or even cause the colony to die, their connection failing, and sapience fading away. Hundreds of constitutes might survive, but the colony dissipates, bearing magic that returns life and reunites the disintegrated consciousness. Remnants of dead colonies might join other constitutes to form a new colony, but any connection to the original is ephemeral. So the little individual insects don't have as big of minds. They're kind of like, maybe like lesser, almost beast-like intelligence, but they know to get together to form an actual mind and stuff. So they do not grieve losses. Many revere Oras and see life as a constant process of exploration and change. Constitutes make sacrifices so the colony can thrive. Colonies take risks, face changes, adapt, dissolve to advance their species. A given colony can endure for more than a century. The colonies often disperse and reform, surrendering individuality for the greater good. Even the Spathinae do not know where they originated. Any records of this place are lost in the gap. They have no clear indication if any planet on which they now reside was their homeworld. Most colonies pay little heed to the lack of history, however, as evolution continues without regard to the past. Some feel, though, that purposeful advancement requires them to seek their origin and learn from that place. So it's not like some of them are like, we want to keep going forward, but some are like, well, in order to continue advancement, we do have to know about where we came from because it can give us hints on the proper way to continue to evolve our thing. Most societies treat their colonies as individuals with the rights and obligations of thereover. However, few people, such as the Atlantes, see the colonies as no more than a coalition of bugs, and in such case, the colonies have no rights. Bonuses to Dex, Wisdom, Penalty to Con. The colonies are monstrous humanoids. They're shapeable, their fences, their movements, their senses, flexibility, their vermin-like. It's an interesting one. to look at. We'll continue on, though, with the SRO, who are from interstellar species. Oh boy, we got one more from the interstellar species today, and then we're done with the interstellar species ones. So, you know, they're long, they're fun, we like them, but we get a lot of information on them. So, these aren't androids. The SROs aren't built to closely emulate any living creature's form or function, but they fill limitless niches as non-sapient machines do. They're performing root tasks to running vast operations too expensive for most biological minds to comprehend. Many SROs are unique constructs, built individually to perform some specific task or develop a soul after hundreds of cycles of self-programming to better at that task. Others are specific members of entirely classes of robots that happen to achieve specific complexity to be self-aware, and even when many of the same make and model haven't. SROs are part of a series of robots that have gained self-awareness, and among the least common type, or who are part of a series of robots that have, even though it's just beginnings, so they're robots. Either bonus to Dex or Strength. They're either small or medium constructs, technological subtype. Small ones have the bonus to Dexterity. Medium ones have the Strength. They have a healing circuit, integrated equipment, robotic. There isn't a commonality between the appearance of them, other than mechanical, constructed, artificial design. They can be short, they can be tall, they can be anywhere from 45 pounds to 150s. The larger ones aren't always heavier, depending on the metals that they were constructed from. They generally have two tool manipulators. Could be arms, tendrils, manipulator beams, some form of ground mobility, which is legs, wheels, treads, hovering, anything like that. There are some broad categories of physical traits they fall into. One common design principle of SROs, which I think what they stand for. They might say what they stand for in the interstellar species. Can't find that. Very easy. Anyway, one common design principle is they're roughly the same dimensions and form as the species that built them. SROs constructed by humanoids often have two armed bipedals, and most have a head kind of sensor at the top, a central body, about 5 to 7 foot tall. There's some flexibility in the design. You can tell, generally speaking, it's really possible to tell if an SRO was designed by human, android, Lashuntu, elf, Vesk, or any other two-armed, two-leg, bilateral symmetry species. So basically, whatever species you come from kind of tells you and shows you where you look like to a bit of degree. They might have things that tell you if they are from another species. Ones designed by other species have similar features, as I kind of say. If an SRO began as a Formian seniority drone, might have 4 legs and insectile appearance. So that's kind of what it is. They're generally designed with function as a high priority, and they often have an exposed appearance with camera eyes, speakers, piston muscles, cables, gears visible to the naked eye, that kind of thing. So they don't really have a homeworld kind per se. They're really built to communicate. So SROs are rarely able to build communities designed around their needs, beliefs, and traditions. They rarely find themselves living in communities for a noble period. Even when a line of them all achieve self-awareness, they're almost all built by biological societies that influence and shape their attitudes and experience well before they can create a culture. As a result, SROs are often knowing outsiders to the society around them, examining histories, laws, traditions, cultural norms as entities affected by them, but they don't have an attachment feelings that make them a crucial part of who that defines the personality. They see the ideas of society and culture and traditional norms as unimportant, at least as they're concerned. They see the momentum ideas that can shape entire worlds or even systems, attitudes, goals, acknowledge these attitudes. Yeah. Where was I? It's fine. I knew about it. Love you. So, yeah. And let's leave SROs there. They're very interesting. They're basically not androids, but they're robotic beings that have achieved a level of soul or self-awareness that are their own beings then. And I would recommend checking out the Interstellar species a little bit more about them, but they vary. And I guess that connection with where you originated from is very important, what species created you to a heavy degree in your thing. This is one that I definitely have to go for a smaller image for, because this was better images I could find of these dudes. Let me tell you, there isn't a good image of our little friends here, who are diminutive. They are from the Aeon Throne Book 2, Escape from the Prison Mood, one of the Adventure Path books, and they are the Stellifera. They're diminutive creatures resembling cuttlefish. They evolved in a deep-sea environment, spent millennia as nomads, developing psychic abilities, exploring their water planet parent. The inherent and dispersed nature of society made it that so when the Aslanti landed and started harvesting resources, it took centuries of pollution and climate change before the Stelferas realized they were on a crash course with extinction. They began to experiment with ways living beyond their native environment, developing psychokinetic water bodies to allow them to survive outside of the element. They normally converse through complex color language, changing skin and nearby water to various hues, supplemented with limited telepathy, so they had to rely on augmentations to communicate with their planet's invaders. The first ambassadors to negotiate the Atlantic reserved Kurt offered of passage off-world. So the first ambassadors negotiated with them, basically and offered for passage off-world. Today they've spread across the Star Empire, seeding worlds with colonies and minimizing chances a single event might cause their annihilation. Most prefer life underwater, but others are eager explorers of land and space. With their psychokinetic water bodies, now familiar travels across the Empire. Regardless, they struggle to assimilate into Aslanti culture. Technology is a new concept to them, and the cost of discovering a wider universe has been high, but many try to make the most out of being explorers and experienced. And I've got a me screaming in the background. They're 1 foot long and about 6 pounds, living mature at 15, live up to 240 years. They're diminutive creatures. They're tiny. Bonus to wisdom, charisma, penalty to con, and a big old penalty to strength. They've got their hydro body, which gives you the definition of the body around them, between their, what's around them and their actual form. It has hit points and stuff like that. And without the body, they do risk suffocation. So it is important for them to have their bubble of water. That's our good friends, the little cuttlefish people. From the Pact World books, Pact World's book is the Strix. Ebon feathers, murky eyes, massive wings, behind them like angels' pinions. They're opposing people. They're not familiar. They're opposing people to anyone not familiar with their kind. Pre-gap accounts speak of small, unusual isolationist populations on Galarian. Still keep to themselves, especially in their concentrated populations of the Pact Worlds. The most populated place in the Spire called Quidel, Eyrie of the Sun on Verces. Non-Strix entry into Quidel is regulated, and the Strix are tight-lipped about their culture and their structure. Some have speculated that Quidel Strix are a little more than spies. The winged people generally magnanimous nature prompt most civilized species to dismiss such suspicious, prejudiced nonsense. Despite having generous dispositions, they struggle to integrate wider and diverse culture. Accustomed to a communal culture where everything from biotechnical engineering to child rearing involves the entire community, they often find Verdathi's focus on individuality and personal achievement exhausting. As a result, many Strix who leave Quidril have opted to leave Verces altogether and pursue venturing off-world. So basically, if they're not on their big old colony on Verces, they're like, look, man, I don't want to deal with you guys. I'm going to go deal with everybody out there. Their biological functions have long adapted to living in dark places, whether it be Quidal or another such enclave elsewhere. As a result, their eyes are typically milky and lack pupils. Furthermore, given their powerful necks and ability to fly, Their ocular muscles rarely need to accommodate moving in their sockets. As a result, the Strix constantly craning their heads in a burn-like manner that, along with their appearance, make them eerie to a lot of other species. Anyway, they share a little about their home culture, even with trusted friends. They are deeply distrustful of magic, but are natural technophiles. They take their technology easily and can fly as they can fly through the air, leading some to believe that strange and incredible technology must be part of life in Quidon. They often heavily augment their body with cybernetics, some of their own creation, and can be valuable as technomancer and mechanics on vessels. Bonus dex and intelligence, penalty charisma, Nightborn, Strix mobility, suspicious, tinkerer, those kind of things. And they can fly. A couple more left, and let's talk about the Suli. This is from, surprisingly, it's from an adventure. This is from one of the adventure paths. It's from the Dawn of Flames Book 2, Soldiers of Brass, which I'm surprised. I gotta be honest. Some of these I thought was going to be the card things we talked about in the beginning here. The Suli Jans. Sulis are descendants of plane-hopping Jans and other mortal beings. Have a Suli in Pathfinder game, because there are Pathfinder species too, if you want to check them out there. Although some Sulis have elemental origins that are more mysterious. They are difficult to recognize at sight since they resemble ordinary humans, with perhaps an occasional flash of elemental light in their eyes. Most manifest their otherworldly heritage at adolescence. Strong embodying personality, they survive and assimilate, making them one of the most widespread planar scions. Bonus to strength and charisma, penalty to intelligence, dark vision, elemental assaults, resistance, and some alternate racial traits. And getting towards the end here, here's another interesting one. Svartalfar. There we go. Said it somewhat correctly. So this is from the Adventure Path Book 11, The Penumbra Protocols, which was the second book in the Signal of Screams series for the Adventure Path. They were exiled from the First World for unspeakable crimes against other Fae. Selfaras fled to the Shadow Plane. When Trian bestowed drift technology to the universe, Selfaras channeled their vengeful energies away from the Fae who expelled them to focus on the inscrutable endgame spanning across the galaxy and planes. Many of the calculated killers have realized that their universal currencies for money and power can advance their race further than the arcane knowledge can. They once sought as payment for their services. So they basically want to get revenge on the Fae world, and, to a degree, and now drift technology's out. They're like, oh, let's get involved with this, and, they've realized, oh, all this arcane power we sought, we could sell it for money. Oh, wait, money and power is more important. Wow! Anyway, bonus to intelligence, dex, penalty, strength. They've got Bane, dark vision, low light vision. They're Fae, extraplanar subtype. Lethal grace, light blindness. They've got their own magic. That's all we got for them. Now, for the final one for today, as we finish up alphabetically, we've got the Sylph. We can go. Who is also introduced stat-wise in the Starfinder Adventure Path 14, Soldiers of Brass. Number 2 in the Dawn of Flame. Yes, also there you can assist descendants of species and creatures from the pure plane of connections to the plane of air, such as Djinn. They can rise to areas with strong influence of the plane of air. They can pass through other kinds of humanoids that tend to be slender, blue markings swirling across their skin, naturally reserved, and avoid tension, bonus dex, intelligence, penalty to con, air affinity, dark vision, element resistance, spell-like abilities, and some alternate racial traits. But that is what we end up with S for today. Oh, woof. Hell of a thing. We got through it. I do like talking about all these. I've got to admit, the Skittermander is one of my favorites on this one, for this list here, for the ones we've talked about today. But we got, I think I'm going to split the remaining ones into 2 more episodes of this, so we've got 2 more to talk about. We'll start with T and go through that one, maybe like, T through U, and then we'll do V through the bottom. Because there's a lot of W's and V's, surprisingly. That'll finish up the Starfinder Species Guide, as it is. if any have been added in since I started, I might miss them. Who knows? We'll see. That's a question I can't answer right now. But for now, though, we will leave it here. We'll do more Starfinder stuff in the future. After the species guides, I'll maybe do some things on, like, Absalom Station, how the Starfinder versions of the planets are in the Galarian system, Sans Galarian, stuff like that. Guides that are the basic introduction to a lot of the Starfinder world, without going into details, because there's a lot more planets, a lot more places to visit. But the kind of Galarian star system, Absalom Station, is a good place to kind of, like, give some basic information. So that might be where I kind of handle things today, leading into the future. But again, couple more episodes of this. So until then, I say to all of you, thank you for joining me. I will give the shout outs to the normal ones. Remember, check me out on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to check me out on Twitter or Twitch. I'm sorry, the other side, both the Dracovin Empire at their respected sites. A follow on Twitch. Subscription, liking, ringing the bell, leaving a comment. If you played any of these things up on YouTube is always great. All these things are great support. I have a Discord and Twitter.com for social media. It's going to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays for the schedule for tabletop stuff. If you ever want to check me out live, Tuesdays tend to be the variety days. Thursdays, the Pathfinder days, World of Darkness days. Saturdays, those tend to be the schedule. I got the Crimson Queen, the new live play Pathfinder 1st edition, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. EST. Check that out. And discussing tabletop on Saturdays. And everything else is just some variety game stuff up on Twitch and throw stuff I throw up onto YouTube a couple of days later. Make sure to check it all out. Anyway, I'm going to get going. I think that's enough of a shout out for today. I thank you all for joining me. I hope you learned all these, enjoyed them, and, play some of these in Starfinder games. I do like Starfinder, and as much as I talk about it a bunch, I do recommend checking out Starfinder and stuff like that. I'll have to do a Starfinder game at some point. Maybe one of the, 3 adventure paths or something. With some players. We'll organize that. We'll see. Plan. I might wait for second edition. Anyway, until the next time, though, I bid all of you out there farewell.